Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. Reed will not be joining us for this episode. The title of tonight's episode is Slay the Giant, with Washington facing the Giants at home at 1 o'clock on Sunday. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. We are rejoined by a very special guest, friend of this show, Mr. Ryan Fowler of the Bleacher Report. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday evening, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Always appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, sir. The Gold Pants are back this weekend. Washington announces earlier today. I know a lot of people are hyped about that. Hopefully one day we'll get to a point where the actual matchup gets everyone excited, not just the pants we'll be wearing. But, I can't wait for that day.
Baby steps.
I was able to finish the All-22 from the Tampa Bay game. And the crazy part about it is, the second half was just absolutely brutal, even though Washington scored more points. But after the film review, Ryan, I know that you watched, what was your immediate thought after watching that All-22 of Jaden Daniels?
First things first, I can't wait for this week, guys. They're going to open it up, and they're going to spread it out this week against this Giant secondary. And I know we'll probably get into that in a little bit. But first things first with Jaden Daniels, I appreciated the level of competitiveness in which he approached every snap with. And what I mean by that is what we saw on the outside from these receivers was very minimal. The separation is a huge question for this team. I don't know what the offensive ceiling is for this group as far as through the air, but the ways in which Jaden Daniels really carried this offense via his legs. Now, we don't want to see him rush for 16 times a game. I know Dan Quinn spoke on that. But his ability to just make plays in whatever way possible is really what popped for me. And a couple of things, the line of scrimmage, a couple of things he looked at Tyler Biadasz and said, hey, slide here, slide here. A couple of things he was communicating up front, I think, was a positive in week one. But they're going to face a better front this week than they did last week. Dexter Lawrence is better than Vita Vea, and Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau is better than Joe Tryon and Chris Braswell on the edge for Tampa Bay. But overall with Jaden, I was impressed in week one, and this is really just an appetizer of what he can be under center as far as his floor, which is an athlete to expand this playbook. And I do expect them to open it up this week.
Are you concerned at all that he's going to be uber dependent on the running ability? There were some throws that stuff were open where he ends up leaving a clean pocket and stuff like that. And I think Dan Quinn highlighted in his press conference, you can leave the pocket, use your legs, but still be looking downfield, because that's another asset in his treasure chest that he hasn't even opened yet.
Yeah, I think it's huge when you get outside the pocket. I think you look at even a guy like Kyler Murray that really doesn't get enough attention as far as when he escapes outside the pocket, his ability to stay flat and behind the line of scrimmage and keep those eyes upfield. That's going to be huge for him, specifically because if these receivers aren't able to get separation and their initial stems, then it turns into sandlot ball a little bit. And Jaden can outrun, 250-pound edges or 320-pound guys like Vita Vea for a couple extra seconds, whether it's in the flat areas or throwing something deep. So that's going to be another part of his progression that we saw a little bit at LSU, and I'm right there with you, Kyle. I want to see more of it at the NFL level, but the biggest thing is just I want him to win under center and inside the pocket. I just want him to take care of his body. The legs are fun. It's really fun to see him run around, but unfortunately, like we saw with RG3, and I hate to bring up that name, but if there were ever, knock on wood, to be an injury that would limit Jaden and take away what he does best, which is keep defenses honest on the weak side and the strong side because of his lower half and turn him strictly into a pocket passer, it changes your whole entire career arc as far as what you expect at quarterback. So I need him to win under center a little bit more. I know they've been probably prioritizing that this week in practice and in the film room. And then when it's open or it's a designated touch for you or a designated look, get going with your legs and be the athlete that you are.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And from all accounts, he's a huge film junkie and a self-corrector. So yeah. I'm sure he's in there this week grinding that out and he's going to correct that, hopefully starting this week. But one thing that seemed like it was not corrected was the other side of the football. It seemed like there was a lot of 2023-ish shades of that defense early on in that game, a lot of missed tackles, blown coverages. I'm not going to try to harp on Emmanuel Forbes too much, but Emmanuel Forbes, just the secondary as a whole. Do you think that was just week one, guys not really getting the reps in the preseason, just kind of getting back into the flow of things, kind of, or do you think that's like a sign of things to come and a huge problem for this defense going forward?
I sure hope it's just week one. I really hope we can use that week one excuse, but I just think back to really the dawn of football and at any level, and the defense is always progresses faster than the offense to where you can throw guys out there and usually at least have some sort of success. And you go down to Tampa Bay and allow 37 points in week one, and especially the back. I mean, the front seven at points in the first half, guys, I really liked. Deron Payne specifically, I thought, had five pressures in the game. I thought at times looked really explosive. John Allen, not so much in my opinion. But overall, this defense has flat out got to be better. And I think when we entered the year, even last year, talking about the secondary, before we even saw Emmanuel Forbes in this defense, and now how we think of Emmanuel Forbes to where guys, he had two penalties on one play against Jalen McMillan. I've never even seen that before, DPI and face mask. He's
Don't laugh
doing
at
things
that.
that we've never seen before in the worst way possible. And this is a young man that's starting, and Michael Davis didn't have any snaps in week one either. So I really hope this was just week one. If they come out in week two, where we know in the past that the Giants have always been a get right game for Daniel Jones, it's they got to be better this week, or there's gonna be a lot of questions because you guys know we heard it all off season. We're gonna be fast, we're gonna be physical, we're gonna get after you. You can say all you want, but when it comes time to strap up and put nose to nose and execute, they got to show up. And this is the week I hope that they get back on track.
Yeah, Ryan, after watching the All 22, one thing I noticed is that Tampa Bay, they were running right at Mikey Samerstill, wherever, because typically he was lining up on the tight end or getting close to those linebackers, and whenever he did, dude, they were going straight at him, and with the tight end usually, and usually it paid good dividends. But on the other side of that was the screen game. Which one of those is the bigger concern for you? The screens absolutely bludgeoned them to death as well.
Yeah, I feel like the edges guys as a whole, really against Tampa Bay were not good. And we had those questions, Mike, you mentioned it a couple minutes ago, as far as the 2023 stuff. The edges were not good in Jack Del Rio's defense
Mm.
either. So protecting the edges both in the run game, be able to set the edge, and then defend those areas or get out in the screens. And Mike Sanders still defeat a block. Forbes, Michael Davis, Derek Forrest was inactive for week one. Jeremy Chin, I thought was very, very below average. I miss Cam Curl a lot. For this defense. I miss him a ton. I wish they paid him the money to stay. That's a whole nother conversation. But
Sore
this team
subject.
has to be better on the edges. They got to be better on the edges, whether that's immediate outside the tackles like we saw in week one in the run game, even though they were okay there, but getting out in these designated touches. And we're going to see it, guys, this week. Malik Neighbors, Wandale Robinson, they're going to be their 1-2 in this passing game, getting the ball out of the hands of Daniel Jones quickly. So if they're not good in that area, you're going to see a lot of chunk plays, and it's hopefully not, chasing the ball game, but they have to be better in a lot of facets at all three levels defensively. It's not acceptable.
Yeah, and you mentioned being better. What do you think that, say that we'll just hypothetical, week one was like a week one thing. They're shaking the rust off. Week two is really when we're going to see the fast, physical, all the stuff they talked about, all the catchphrases they put out there. They talked about this off season.
Last in the league on third down on defense, by the way.
Yeah, and that came
Yep.
over that turned his head or reared his head this past week as well, dating back to last year. But what is something that you think? Okay, they're going to watch the tape, they're going to adjust, they're going to make the correct adjustments. What do you think that? What are some things, or just one thing that on both sides of the ball that they're going to come out and say, all right, we're going to do this week because last week we failed to do this.
I think offensively, first things first, I think they're going to allow Jaden to spread it out a little bit. I think he's going to force some targets downfield. I know we didn't turn the ball over. I know the strip sack was there in week one, but I do think they're going to take some shots this week and give guys like Luke McCaffrey, De'Ami Brown, didn't see the involvement in week one. It's something that we've talked about for a long time. We need more of from De'Ami Brown, but I do think they're going to open it up and give some chances more so downfield in week one, all right, week two, excuse me. And then defensively, on the back end, there was primarily some zone. I want to see a little bit more just cover two looks and force things and funnel things in the middle of the field. I've seen a lot of robbers with Jeremy Chin down to the line of scrimmage. I know they want to get Jordan McGee healthy because he's going to play some of that. Dom Hampton. But on the outside, you don't have the corners right now to just allow Quan Martin to live in man at times and just play single high, and your front four is not getting home, and you're only sending four. So if you're a team, similarly what we're going to see this week with Shane Bowen's defense, where he wants to funnel everything inside, I want to see a little bit more of that and allow Frankie Louvu, allow Bobby Wagner, the core of this defense, to play both within the hashes and hash line, hashes extended a little bit. So just make things easier on the back end. Don't try to be too tricky. Allow this front four to not just create your pressure, but send some guys up the A and Bs and be a little bit more aggressive and force Daniel Jones into turnover worthy plays, which we've heard all off season what they're going to be. They're going to be a high risk, high reward type of defense. Get after people a little bit. Don't allow Daniel Jones to sit back there and rush for 100 yards, which we've seen in the past too. So it's a bunch of things, but fundamentally, get after the quarterback, force these receivers on the outside to separate as well, and don't play a ton of single high with Quan Martin. Give him some help with Percy Butler, Jeremy Chin, whoever's on the football field.
Yeah, and looking ahead against the Giants, watching today, Brandon Coleman really impressed me. What did you think about his debut? Obviously, he didn't start. They rotated him with Cornelius Lucas. I think Lucas wasn't as violent as he needed to be. Brandon Coleman certainly was. How do you think the O-line looked, and how are they going to come out on Sunday?
Yeah, I would not be surprised. I know week one we saw rotation with Cornelius and Brandon at left tackle. I would not be shocked at any point to see Brandon potentially on the right side, whether he's a guard potentially, or if they have some questions with Nick Allegretti. Does Cornelius get some snaps at right tackle as well? Because I think a common misconception that we talk about with these mobile quarterbacks, obviously what Jaden is when you just flip on the tape or look at numbers and say, oh, he wasn't sacked or there were no pressures, there were no QB hits. Well, that looks into as far as the mobility of the quarterback position. And the line was not perfect. I thought they could have done a lot better job picking up stunts and twists. And again, this Giants front is Dexter Lawrence is going to demand a double team every single snap. And if you don't, he's going to be in the lap of Jaden Daniels every single damn play. I think he's one of the best defenders in football that really doesn't get enough attention. But overall, I think when you look at this offensive line and Brandon Coleman, first off, I think he deserves to start at left tackle right now. And I think Cornelius Lucas deserves an opportunity on the right side, which is what we've seen him do well in the past, because Andrew Wiley is fine. I still think he's a name as far as what he was in Kansas City as a guy that, appeared in Super Bowls for them. But I need the best five along the front five right now. And I think the front three is okay, but allow Brandon to get an opportunity. He's super athletic. We saw it in week one, running hip to hip with Jaden Daniels, which is outstanding at his size and weight. But overall, I thought he did a good job in his 14 snaps. Now it's just about continuing, and you think potentially may have a future piece right at left tackle and at quarterback, which would be a major positive for this franchise.
Yeah, Ryan, it definitely seemed like Lucas and Wiley are still of the Ron Rivera O-line, which was much less of violence and much more so of flexibility and kind of that soft zone type of blocking. And so you see the difference of Brandon Coleman. I totally agree with you. Sorry, Hall.
Someone that got similar amount of snaps as Brandon Coleman was Jamin Davis. He had a couple flash plays here and there. Definitely made a good move on Tristan Wirfs for a loss.
Beautiful.
For a big loss in the backfield. What do you see from Jamin, and do you think that we're going to see more of that, more consistency from him going forward throughout the season?
Yeah, more snaps for Jamin Davis. Absolutely. I'm all for guys. I know we're making the transition from off-ball backer down to edge, but he's got the twitch, athleticism, size, and strength to make some plays there. And Tristan Wirfs, in my opinion, is that 1B to Trent Williams as far as left tackles in the NFL. And it's not easy to go around that man in a phone booth. And that's what Jamin Davis did, using that twitch and athleticism. So the speed picks up when you're even closer to the line of scrimmage for him, coming down from off-ball backer. But that's a hell of a play. We saw it in the preseason as well, making plays. I want to see more of it. What could be the ceiling for 52 off the edge? I don't know. We'll see. But more snaps for him, absolutely. I think he should get a little bit more snaps on third downs, more so than what we saw even of Javonte Jean-Baptiste. I'm not hating on Javonte. I think he's a young, flashy player with length that down the road potentially. But I want to see some more opportunities for Jamin to pin his ears back and flat out get after the quarterback from that 5 tech spot, or even move him out to that wide 9, which is what we're going to see this week from Burns and Thibodeau. Create that A to B kind of pathway for him, straight line to the pocket, and use that speed and threaten that outside shoulder against the tackle.
Yeah, and those two running backs, they did exceptionally well in the blocking game to help Jaden Daniels out as much as they could. But to wrap this up, Ryan, I only have a couple more questions for you, sir. But when you're looking at this game going forward, what is one thing that Washington has to fix in order for them to be in a good position to win on Sunday?
Yeah, I think they have to attack these corners, guys. The aerial attack for Washington has to improve. And I know it was a lot of fun watching Jaden LSU with Malik and with Brian Thomas to where whatever safety side it rotated to, I'm going opposite. I want to see more with him, just whether it's moving the sticks, back foot in the ground, a little hitch, and it's out to the outside. We've seen it across the league. You got to get your star receivers involved. This Giants corners room, if it's not Washington, it's the Giants as far as talent wise, where it's drastically below league average. Deontay Banks is a fun player. Drew Phillips at nickel, would not be surprised for people I talked to this week if he gets some snaps on the outside because he can really run. Kid out of Kentucky from the third round. But Cordell Flott, they signed a Dory Jackson. None of those names scare anybody. And they have to get some separation from these guys to make life easier as that correlating talent to Jaden Daniels. So I think it's opening up through the air. And then on along this front five for Jaden Daniels, you have got to block Dexter Lawrence. I cannot say it enough. He's almost getting to the conversation where you talk about the Aaron Donalds, the TJ Watts, the Micah Parsons of the world. You have got to double that man, or he's going to absolutely take over a football game and make life hell, both in the run game and passing game, or Jaden trying to take off in any aspect.
Absolutely. The Giants' offense and passing yards are 17th so far through 1 week, and in rushing, they're 27th. So, how does Washington limit Daniel Jones, our so to speak giant that for some reason comes alive against Washington whenever he plays them? How are they going to be able to stop him from being able to do what he's done before?
Yeah, I'm going to get after him. I know I said earlier as far as try to limit man coverage, but they're going to have some designated touches on the outside. But I'm getting after Daniel Jones and speeding up his process, getting those feet active a little bit, and trying to create some plays to Emmanuel Forbes or Mike Sanders still to allow them to just make some plays in the football, which we've talked about for a long, long time, specifically with Forbes, and we've really never seen it come to fruition yet moving into year two. So I'm going to speed up Daniel Jones's process. I'm going to try to funnel everything to the inside. They are going to get Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson involved in this offense early. It doesn't matter if you're in press man, off, if you're in zone, it doesn't matter what you're doing. They're going to force feed Neighbors and force feed Wan'Dale Robinson, and they did it in week one. I don't expect it to change this week, but get after Daniel Jones. The run game, Devin Singletary, Eric Gray, Tyrone Tracy, rookie out of Purdue. That's not a run game that's going to get after people and run for 100 yards. So get after Daniel Jones this week, and I think you're going to put yourself in a good spot to put some points on the board. Even though, guys, I will say this, Shane Bowen in Tennessee had the number one red zone defense in 2023. So once you get in the red zone, take care of those advantages. New kicker in town, Austin Seibert. We'll see how that goes, but score also when you get those opportunities.
Yeah, and obviously the Bucks last year, they were one of the best top 5, top 10 in the league in the red zone on defense. And Washington right now is tied for first on offense
Yeah.
in red zone offense with 100%. So they obviously have a lot to do. They got to get it done and do well. But the Giants last week did not do well. I think they're tied for 26th for not actually converting any field goals. Every time they got in the red zone was a touchdown. Last question I have for you. Do you expect, this is my personal want, do you expect for them to be using the read option this week like they did in preseason?
I think they will, guys, and the reason why I say that is to keep these edge rushers just honest, right? I think you guys know this run game to stop some of these guys, you go right at them, and the passing game to limit them, quick passes, or sometimes there's going to be some QB sweeps, some powers. There is going to be some Zoe Reed this week. I fully expect it, and I think there's sometimes even we saw it in Wildcat look during week one to where there's a little fake pitch from B Rob out to the
Yep.
outside. I would like to see that potentially. I mean, I want Jaden get down. I also am also a supporter of quarterbacks diving instead of sliding. Reason why when you dive, you don't give up your chin or your chest or your neck. When you dive, you can go straight down. I am also a supporter of that. So whatever way he wants to get down, take care of your body. Zone reads, design QB looks. The legs are outstanding. I think personally, you line up every quarterback in the NFL and you have them race 40 yards. I think Jaden Daniels wins that race because of his linear speed. It's sensational. I think we're just getting a taste of what he can do and what he did in week one. He's only going to get better. The Commanders fans out there continue to be excited. This is no reason for us to raise the pitchforks after week one. Absolutely not. But can't allow Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones comes into to Northwest Stadium and puts up 37 guys. We're going to have a lot of questions on a lot of things. So
there will be pitchforks out if that happens.
let's just knock on wood for that. But I'm excited for week two, guys.
Yeah, which is just bad because of the gold pants and how I personally feel about them. But look, this is new times, new era, right, Ryan? But thank you for joining us. Before you get out of here, just like to plug your social media and your show, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet and would like to, sir.
Of course, I'm on X. If you don't follow me there already, at _ Ryan Fowler. And then my podcast, Commanding the Huddle, comes out 2 times a week. It'll be coming out tomorrow, Thursday, the 12th. Full preview of the New York Giants offense, defense, special teams. And that's out on all podcast platforms. And then my work can be found at the Draft Network and at Bleacher Report, as Kyle mentioned at the top.
My man. Have a great night, Ryan. Enjoy the game this weekend. Hopefully it's better circumstances this time around. We can go even out at 500. Have a good night,
Absolutely.
brother.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Ryan Fowler. Always appreciate his time, as always.
Yeah,
Paul,
definitely.
what is your biggest takeaway from what Ryan said?
That this is a team that I think like we all expected that the defense would, like he said, going into every season, a new offense, new players on offense, new quarterback, all that, whatnot. Everyone expects kind of the defense to be a step or two ahead of the offense while the offense kind of gets their feet under them, gels together, and gets those on the field reps, especially with the no preseason like there is nowadays, or the lack of reps in preseason like there is nowadays. So I think a lot of people, like probably maybe including you, but I think Ryan's point was the defense is going to have to, and we all thought that going into the season, like for the first 4 to 5 weeks, that the defense was kind of going to have to carry the team defensively while they get their feet under them offensively. Not really carry the team, but be the driving force for the team as far as like the momentum and the big swings and whatnot, so they can create those on offense. But I do think that I think his point was that this defense is going to have to get a lot better with tackling, and they're going to have to
No
fly
kidding.
around to the ball, get physical, get a lot more physical, and they're going to have to finish because, like he said, getting after Baker Mayfield was not the problem with the pass rush up the middle and from the outsides and whatnot. It was finishing at the quarterback. So, and we
Yeah.
know Daniel Jones, even coming off the injury, is a mobile guy. So they're going to have to definitely finish at the quarterback if they're going to take down the Giants this week.
Yeah, Washington's defense right now, second most blitzing defense in the league. And the crazy thing about it is the Buccaneers knew every single time when they were. I mean, they were throwing that screen. I don't know how, but watch it all 22. It's honestly kind of ridiculous. And looking back on what Dan Quinn was saying about limiting the pre-snap communication, maybe there was a tell there that was coming down and that they were able to pick that off and be able to throw that audible out there real quick. I find that hard to believe, but it is kind of nuts that whenever we were sending that extra man, extra two guys, they were able to go to a screen to the other side and do pretty well against it. And it's unfortunate, to be honest with you. Biggest concern, like from what I talked about with Ryan, is the attacking their corners, and obviously that's what you want them to do, right? But my biggest thing here is making sure that you can run the football. Washington was able to run the football very well towards the end of that game. They were able to really utilize it and do pretty well there. Obviously, Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler were vital in the passing game and being able to get that, just that check down and then be able to move that ball downfield. That stupid penalty on Oz, but I think establishing that run game and using those legs of Jaden Daniels to scare that New York Giants defense to keep them off balance is going to be key. And as much as we thought going into this season that the defense was going to have to force those 3-and-outs in order to give Jaden Daniels much more opportunities to score points, I think it's very necessary for Jaden Daniels in the offense to be able to convert on third downs so the defense can stay rested, because they were on the field a heck of a whole lot in 100-degree heat. And when you're starting to put in that defensive line rotation, when you start seeing those second to third guys, they're getting ran through, man, right up the middle for days. And it was, you saw it later on in the game because everyone was kind of gassed. But from at this point, man, I am kind of concerned about what they're going to do on the edges, because I feel like these teams like the Giants, knowing that they're the second most blitzing team on defense right now, they're going to be throwing those screens. They're going to be attacking those edges to kind of nullify that blitz and that rush, knowing that it's coming. And so that's one thing I am concerned with at the moment. But, it's after watching the All-22, we'll say this. Jaden was at one point just going. He wasn't keeping his eyes downfield. And honestly, that's a shock to me, because that's not something that he did at LSU. But you can obviously tell, being a younger quarterback, first game in the NFL, you're going with what's working. And you don't want to say that's a bad thing, because he's doing what's been getting us first downs and moving the chains. But at some point, it's easy in the NFL to say it's working right now until something catastrophically goes wrong. And then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, now I have to wait a really long time in order to be able to do it again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and to that point, I was listening to Grant and Danny like on the way home, and Warren Sharp like gets on my nerves. But he did make a good point where he was like, week one, even some semblances in week two with quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks. He looks at what were they being coached to do in the preseason. If you go back to the preseason, what was Jaden doing a lot of? A lot of quick passes, a lot of quick games, just getting the ball out really quick, kind of just one read, go with it, really bam. So you get to week one, and all he's been doing throughout the preseason is kind of that quick one read, get it out, quick one read, get it out. You get into that game, and all of a sudden you get to that first read, it's kind of like, okay, it's not there. Let me just take off. Like you said, to your point, let me do what works. And
I don't think that's because of preseason though. I think that's because of the game that was happening to him. I mean,
well,
to
no,
say
I think it's more of like you're not seeing like the reps as far as like like back in the day, like back in the days, like a lot of the players would play that third pre. Well, I guess it would be the second preseason game now because there's only three. A lot of guys or starters would play into that second half, or they come out at halftime to get the feel of a halftime of a real game, and then play like a series or two into the third quarter. Whereas nowadays, I mean, yeah, you get the joint practices, but you're only playing maybe like three, four, maybe like five series max in your preseason game. So as
that's
far
kind
as
of
like
my
the reps
point.
go, you're not seeing like the coverage as far as like, oh, they're showing this and they're switching to this, or they're showing this, or I'm working this progression. If it's not there in the quick game, I can keep working my progression instead of just get it out quick, get it out quick, get it out quick. So like I'm not like fully agreeing with his point, but I do kind of get what he's trying to like kind of like trying to correlate as far as like that's what he was doing all preseason. That's what he was being coached to do. So when he gets to the game, it's like, okay, the first read's not there. Let me just go back to what works, and which is my legs. So I think that, like I said, he's a self corrector. I'm sure that the Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury, all those guys, Tavita Pritchard, Brian Johnson, they're in the room with him saying like, hey, in this instance, like you got out the pocket this quickly, but if you would have stayed in the pocket for maybe half or maybe shifted or maybe got outside the pocket, kept your eyes downfield, you had this person streaking or you had this person crossing over the middle. So I expect him this week to self-correct some of that stuff, and if he does get out the pocket, I think he'll keep his eyes downfield and hit the open guys if they get open.
I do agree. Now let's go to our fan questions before we answer all of them before we even get to them. This question submitted by the Colonel Hall. Many episodes ago, I asked who would we regret losing to free agency last season. I suggested it would be Curtis Samuel going to Buffalo. Kyle suggested it would be Kendall Fuller to the Dolphins. I think after our cornerbacks' performances at Game 1, Kyle is spot on. Besides kicker, is cornerback our weakest position on the team?
I would say yes, just because I'm not going to say St. Juice isn't a starting corner, but he's definitely not a number one corner, which is what he's basically playing right now. So I would say that cornerback, like obviously we have the rookie Mikey Samuel still, but so he plays a lot of slot like nickel cornerback. So and he's a rookie, so obviously it's going to take him a little bit of time as well to get adjusted to the speed of the game and stuff like that. So I'm not worried about him as far as like going forward. I think he'll be a stud, but I mean, again, I'm not trying to like keep beating the dead horse, but Emmanuel Forbes, it's like even if he
Yes,
has a
you are.
couple reps, even if he has a couple reps where he has some pretty good reps, he's mirroring the receiver, he's staying with them, doing his job. He takes like a step forward. It's just that one or two plays where it's like it's just you kind of take two or three steps back and you're just right back where you started from. And your technique, it's like you trust your technique when the ball's not coming to you, but when the play is coming to your side, your technique is all like frazzled and you get all just like kind of panicky or whatnot. Hence the double penalty in one play. So
To your point, real quick, that one, it was like a quick slant to Chris Godwin on E-Man, and
mhm.
E-Man lets up the catch. It was obviously a pitch and catch play for Chris Godwin and Baker. It's something that you shouldn't hang your hat on. Emmanuel Forbes immediately gets up and drops his head. And
Exactly.
it's like, dude, that's a normal freaking play. Nobody's gonna get on you for that. Chill out, man.
And look, everyone knows, like, I mean, people say it all the time, playing football is like 80% mental and 20% physical,
Yeah.
especially with playing cornerback. Like, you have to be the most overconfident, just shake the last play off, move on to the next play type of person. And to your point, if you're letting the easy pitch and catch that any receiver and quarterback is going to complete in the NFL, kind of get your hopes down and put your head down and kind of discourage you, then you've pretty much already lost the battle going forward as it is. So hopefully with a, I don't want to say weaker because anybody can torch this group, it seems like, but if with a lesser thought of group with the Giants wide receiver core outside of Neighbors, hopefully this will be a week where he kind of builds a little bit of confidence going into that week 3 matchup. Not trying to look too far ahead, but I think Higgins will be back by that week. You got Jamar Chase and Higgins coming in or going in Cincinnati, but I just think that yeah, he needs to, because on the field, like you said, it's not even, it's more of like a confidence thing, and then it is like an actual like physicality and like a technique thing is also a problem too. But I feel like technique also goes hand in hand with confidence. If you're confident in yourself, your technique is going to be sound. So I think that yeah, he definitely has to kind of get out of his head as much and just play loose and play ball.
Definitely think that his biggest detriment at this point is the lack of speed, the lack of quickness. If you're going to be a smaller, thinner corner, you better be fast as hell, man. And
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to say a couple
To your
weeks
point,
ago.
there's no like real recovery.
Right,
Like,
and that's been my point with E-Man. It's like I said it on Sunday. It's like we have a very thin anchor almost, and it feels that way, which is unfortunate because if you're going to be smaller, you better have that quickness, man. And that's honestly that's what a lot of guys can hang their hat on, and at the moment he really can't, based on his body type and everything. But I hope
but
that he gets his head in the game.
yeah, to answer the Colonel's original question, normally I would say receiver because like as much as like Jaden was scrambling and stuff was breaking down, he was kind of just one read. I don't see it go. I do think like going back to last year, Carter Samuel was our best receiver as far as like separation and quickness off the line. So, but you give up all those points. Obviously, the secondary is going to be the bigger concern. I don't think we have a number one corner right now with Kendall Fuller being here. He would have been the vet in the room. He would have been the number one corner, if you want to call him that. So I do think that cornerback is the biggest problem for the team right now.
Do you want me to be perfectly honest, Colonel? And I hate to say it, I truly do, and I don't want to say it, but I think one of the weaker positions on the team is linebacker at the moment. And it's unfortunate to say that, but I'm just imagining that you get put in a position of man coverage and you line up a running back on 54. It's going to be pitch and catch, man, and it's unfortunate going to the sideline. And like, look, he's going to get everyone in position. He did incredibly well in those run plays, being able to penetrate the backfield when it was an obvious running play. But when you're going to get to, your offenses are going to key in on those certain guys, just like they did with Mikey in the run game. They do it in the passing game, vice versa. And so Joe Witt and company, they're going to have to get some plans ready to go. So these DNs, these secondary, these corners, these safeties can come up in relief in those situations because it is going to be an issue. So I don't think it's the weakest, but I think it's weaker. I think you answered it really well. But we have other questions. Next one, Carl, is despite all the criticism this week, I did see a couple bright spots. Jaden Daniels' play was impressive, though his second touchdown was made during garbage time. Very happy with Brian Robinson Jr.'s performance and also Brandon Coleman once he replaced Cornelius Lucas at left tackle. What other bright spots did you see, Hall?
Yeah, I think we highlighted one of them, or I kind of highlighted one of them, which was Jamin Davis. Obviously he only played, I want to say it was 13, maybe 14 snaps, something like that. But he had the two pressures in the backfield, one for the tackle for loss. To beat a guy like Tristan Wirfs with your quickness and your agility just shows that you're not fully like there as like a defensive end, but you're definitely grasping what it takes to be a defensive end in this league. And hopefully with Kerrigan and those guys working with him, D-Tap, all the defensive line coaches, Dan Quinn, working with him, he'll continue to progress. And look, I'm not saying the ceiling is going to be like Michael Parsons or the next best thing at defensive end, but if you have a guy that can be a rotational, maybe like a Dante Fowler in his prime type of like third down pass rusher specialist that can come in, get after the quarterback in obvious passing situations, third downs, third and longs, whatever it might be. And he has the ability, because he played linebacker, to kind of get active in the run game and set the edges at times. I do think that with more consistency, I think with more reps, more playing time, Jamin hopefully will become, like I said, maybe like a Dante Fowler type defensive end in his prime, where he was like more of like a specialist than what he is now, like kind of longer in his career.
I got you. The other bright spot was Austin Eckler. I thought that he looked great. He did a great job in the blocking game there. At one point, the Bucks sent, I
Definitely
think,
need more touches for him too.
yeah, they sent a six-man rush and a free guy right up the middle. Austin Eckler takes his legs out.
Chopping him down, yeah.
Yeah, and then also getting those catches in the getting the checkdowns, turning around right away, being able to run through tackles. But one of the more impressive ones was the Brandon Coleman that I uploaded today, where Brandon Coleman is actually able to move Vita Vea before moving to Levante David at the second level, creating that 8 to 6 yard cushion for Austin Eckler to get upfield on the goal line. And I've said it already, the Bucks were one of the best red zone defenses last season, and for Washington to be able to convert 3 for 3 in the red zone, I thought was another bright spot. Obviously, it's what they started out with training camp was working in red zone and situational football. Obviously, third downs were lackluster. We actually didn't have that many. On the scoring drives that we did have, we weren't even getting to third down. We were moving down the field so quickly. So I'd like to see, obviously, more of Austin Eckler getting in, but he was another bright spot for me, dude. I think that he did a great job, and it's hard to kind of find him at this moment just because of how the game went. And it's unfortunate. You don't want that. You want it to be competitive, right? But I already had my sulking episode on Sunday. We're moving on to the Giants. Next question on Twitter, Tony Franchise. Thank you, Tony. You're the man. What are your expectations for the team for week 2, and this being the home opener? Speaking of, we're going to that. Still haven't
Yes,
found
sir.
still haven't found a parking pass. I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, you know how much the parking passes are right now? Like over $100.
That's
It's
crazy. I
insane.
mean,
So, is there anyone selling them? Let me know.
find that gray lot cash parking.
I just don't want to walk a mile to go find the
Yeah,
boys.
yeah, that's the only like downfall through the woods
Right.
and shit. What was the expectations for week 2? That was a question.
Yeah, for the team week 2 and this being the home opener.
Oh yeah, I expect them to come out, be really fired up. I expect them to be fired up from the home crowd, like first time seeing Jaden at home on the home field. So I'd expect there'll be a lot of high intensity emotion with the players. Um, I'm expecting them hopefully to get after the quarterback like they kind of did with Baker, but finish at the quarterback. And I'm expecting them to do what they were like, what Joe Witt and all them have been talking about, which is play fast, physical, and fly to the ball. And I'm hoping that they are able to finish the tackles and not just be missing tackles left and right like they have been like last week. So that's what I'm expecting.
My expectations are to see a turnover. We didn't see any in the preseason, really. Benjamin St. Juste surrendered his opportunity in week 1 against Baker, which was a great job jumping that route, but it hit both hands, man. You got to catch that football. We need it badly.
Bricks, bro. I mean,
Right.
like bricks.
Getting a turnover, I think, is going to be vital, either through a sack or being able to get a pick, forcing Daniel Jones into a bad situation. I said on Sunday night, it seems like at times on defense over the past year or so, we've seen like a punching bag, and there's nobody punching back. On defense, it just seems like we're taking all the bludgeoning, and there's just no force behind it. You kind of saw the difference in this game a little bit with the pass rush, but not being able to bring them down is a huge problem, obviously. And so that has to be corrected. And Dan Quinn kind of highlighted that today. So I do expect them to get a turnover in this football game, and I expect them to be competitive. Look, the Bucks are a good team. I understand that. I get it. They got to the playoffs last year. They beat the Eagles. I get it. My point is, you just want to be able to see competitive football being played. And I'm not saying the Giants are the worst in the league, but this is a team that you should be competitive against, and we should not be seeing what we saw in the past against Daniel Jones and company. Based on the defensive pressure that I saw against Baker, we should be able to produce a turnover here. If we don't, and he dices us up all game with these damn screens and hitting the outside edges with the run plays and us not being able to trail and bring guys down and miss tackles, it's going to be a long Sunday, my friend.
It's gonna be a long season.
Yeah, well, you never know. You never know. Now, the next question we have, this one is in the Discord. We got some really good ones. Tim Towner asks, I am of the opinion that the offense is a work in progress. They have concepts and packages that have been practiced, but very little with the starters in live competition. Same with the D as the tackling woes revealed. Do you think it is reasonable to think we will compete in week 2 for a win versus the Giants, or more realistic to think week 7 versus Carolina? Ooh.
It's realistic in both of those games, honestly, and it should be it should be realistic in majority of these games. To be honest with you, it's just I'm just gonna hope that week one was a week one anomaly. Like we saw it all throughout the league where scoring was down, defenses were missing a lot of tackles, not just here in Washington, or I guess down in Tampa Bay, but not just in Washington. They were missing tackles left and right all over the league. Like obviously, not every team was missing tackles, but majority of the teams were playing sloppy football in week one because of the lack of the preseason and all that,
I don't think it's
blah blah
because
blah. But
preseason. I think it's the collective bargaining agreement. There's a lot
well,
less
yeah, I
padded
mean,
practices. You know what
all
I'm
that goes
saying?
into it. Like that's part
Yeah.
of the preseason as well. Like
I
they,
got you. I got you. I got you.
yeah, but um, yeah. So I do think that I mean, it's definitely reasonable. It should be realistic that we are going to be competitive with the Giants. It should be a realistic thing that we should be able to beat the Giants. We should have beaten them at least once or twice over the past couple of years. I don't know what happens with Daniel Jones. Like if he crosses over that line into DC or Landover, and all of a sudden that man turns into like Joe Montana / Steve Young out there. But I think that yeah, I think it's reasonable. It's beyond reasonable to be think that they're going to be competitive, not only god awful Carolina, but against the Giants as well.
You should expect for them to win.
Thank
I'm
you.
being perfectly honest with you. If the offense was atrocious against the Bucks defense, I would sit here and tell you you probably shouldn't be expecting a win. I probably wouldn't be saying that, but I'm just saying if they didn't produce in the way that they did, and because of the kicking game kind of ruining that a little bit, because if they wouldn't, it would have been 37-26 against a very good Bucks defense that obviously I've said it so many times already, the red zone defense being 3 for 3 in that aspect. I think that they gained enough confidence for me personally to say that we should be expecting a win in this game. I know it's the NFL. We didn't look all that great in week one, and I don't want to harsh on anybody's depression here with Washington, but what they showed is confidence building in my personal opinion, showing that they were able to run the football in the red zone, showing and they didn't even do it all that much altogether. Obviously, there were some run plays that got stopped short, but I do think it is a realistic expectation they can win on Sunday, and I don't think it's asinine or homeristic to say that. I think they showed you enough. The big question is, it's defensively. Can they get off the field without giving up points to give the ball back to the offense in order for them to generate? Do you know what I'm saying? But Lord knows that because me saying that the defense will be getting off the field on Sunday, then the offense is going in like a slow start. You know what I'm saying? So at
Yeah.
some point, you got to get mutual bounces going on there with the offense and defense. I truly do believe that you can expect that on Sunday. I know it's a good defense with the Giants, but with what I saw going against that Bucks defense, I think you can be confident that Washington can score enough points to win this game, and I don't think it's crazy to say that. The next question from Tim Hall. I am getting irritated by the media experts critiquing the players and coaches with football speak and thinking they can break down film and postulate as to the way things ought to be. So which one of these marvels will be the first to run out of things to write and throw AP under the bus next bus out of town? I got this listening to Kime and Bram, if you can believe that. He
Um,
said two football experts, not.
I mean, John Keim's been covering the NFL and covering this team for a while. He's been with coaches and players and broken down film with them and whatnot. So, um, yeah, he's talked about it before, like how he's sat with like coaches in the past and like watched film with them and
He
done like
did.
stuff
He
like that.
did. I think he did do the scouting academy. To Kime's credit in
Right.
defense,
So he's not like a just one of these like random beat reporter that just kind of goes off of like the common man's eye. Like he does have a common man's eye, but he's a little bit more advanced as far as like what he sees and whatnot. Plus, like I said, he's the number one beat reporter for the team. I would say works for ESPN, so you got to have some type of chops to like do that type of stuff. But as far as like, I mean, I haven't heard anybody like saying that Adam Peters should be shipped out of town or any of that like
that's
so-called
not what he's
experts.
saying. He's basically saying with football speak and thinking they could break down film as to
Oh,
postulate
yeah, 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 yeah.
like basically saying this is why it's wrong. This is why you need to add people here.
Right, right, right.
Basically nitpicking at AP and how he's constructed the team thus far as another reason as to why down the road AP could be thrusted out of town. If that
I
makes
mean,
sense. Like they know better than AP is
Yeah,
what I think
I
Tim's saying.
get that. I mean, everyone's gonna have an opinion. It's 2024. Everyone has opinions. Everyone thinks they know better than the actual people making the decisions. But at the end of the
Amazing.
day, yeah. But at the end of the day, look, would I would like them to add more talent in the offseason? Yes. Surround Jay with more pieces? Yes. Put a little more depth on the defensive side of the ball, a little bit more whatever on the defense? Yes. But I'm going to trust the plan for now until they obviously give you like reason to not to trust it. So it's year one, it's week one. I'm not going to go all like ballistic like a lot of like crazy fans do. So
I'm with you. And I will group myself in with Kime and Bram here as to the guys that claim that obviously I do watch film. I just speak on what I see and how I feel about things, and knowing I just I haven't I just have my own opinion and I have an eye for it that I see certain things, and I'm not going to say that like I have done this with Cliff, right? And I'm like that's the one thing with Joe Witt is like I don't think Joe Witt's at fault for how things kind of went. It was just kind of nuts to see Tampa calling literally the perfect play against the type of defense that we'd be running. And
I think
obviously
it was
that goes into how much we were blitzing, because obviously the more you blitz, the more likely when that screen gets called, it's going to be against the
I was
blitz.
gonna say, I think that goes into more of that's Baker just being like a guy that's played many years in NFL,
Right.
seen lots of defenses, lots of different blitzes, lots of different exotic blitzes. And I do know there was one thing where he was mic'd up and it was like with Mikey Samerstill, like he did like something or it was like a pre-snap thing and he did like a
Come,
fake
yeah,
like a
because he was aggressive and showing
yeah, he
press.
got Mikey to come up and show, and then he switched it up, audible, hit the screen, and then they got like however many yards it was. But yeah, I think it was more of the defense not like showing Baker, not being like not just showing what they were in or like doing what they're showing what they're doing. I think it was more of Baker's like actually like a really smart like football player, like a really smart
Oh, of
quarterback,
course he is.
and he's seen many a defenses, seen many type of like fake like coverages and this like oh you're going to show this but like really roll to this type of thing. So that's just really Baker being smart and him knowing the offense and him just having that football IQ. So again, I'll chalk it up to they were a better team than us. It was week one. It's all about because last year a loss like that you're like all right well let's see if they bounce back next week and they come out flat again next week. So if it's really like a change and everything is different around here, we'll see how they bounce back and come out this week.
Yeah, like in credit to Baker, he earned a lot of respect from me last week. He went to Oklahoma, man. That spread offense, that attack style offense, and going to Tampa Bay was a perfect situation for him. A
Yep.
defensive minded head coach that has a good defensive structure around him. They just needed a stable running game, and Rashad White certainly does help provide that. And
And
having
he already knew the offense coming in
right,
because I forget the dude's offensive coordinator's name, but he was in LA with Baker for those last couple games that
Liam
he was out there.
Cohen,
Cohen, yeah. He was with Baker out there. So Baker coming in was already comfortable with Cohen. They already
right.
had a relationship and he already kind of knew the ins and outs of the offense. So
Yeah, the great point by you. So like I don't want to harp on too much, but I do group myself in with those pundits, Tim. I love you. Now the next question that we have is from Yam Sensei. Listening to the radio on the way home and heard a pundit say that the Giants have a better roster than we do. How?
isn't Yam going to be at the game on Sunday?
Yeah,
Well, you better say what's up, Yam. Um,
we're gonna force that. I mean,
no, yeah. Look, I'm not. If you want to go like position by position, like I would say, if you want to go position by position, it's actually almost, unfortunately, kind of comparable. There's like they have a little bit of better pieces here. We have a little bit of better pieces here. But
it's
I would say
fair.
the deciding factor for us having the better roster would be the quarterback position. I think Jaden Daniels is better than Daniel Jones is right now, even though Daniel Jones is in year 6 or whatever it is, and Jaden Daniels in year 1,
I would add running back.
running back. I think that's what you say. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't read
you don't
lips.
need to hear that.
But yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna like go there and like nitpick like this position's better here and this one's better there. The rosters are kind of similar, and as far as like they ain't got a lot of talent over there, we ain't got a lot of top end talent over here. But I would say the deciding factor and the most important position in the sport is the quarterback, and I think that we have the better quarterback. So if you want to nitpick and say they have a better roster overall, okay, whatever. We have the better quarterback, so I'll take us.
My man. Next question. Look, we can sit here and talk about talent on paper and what it should mean. I'm not interested in any of that. What I'm
To your
interested,
point, hold on, my bad. I was listening to Trevor Sikkema earlier, talk on the radio, and he was talking about like people always talk about this Giants front four. They're so lethal, and Dexter Lawrence is great. I'm not even excluding him, but they were talking about Thibodeau and Brian Burns. He was like, if you go back and look at the numbers, Thibodeau and Brian Burns both have a 5% pressure rate like throughout their career. So like he was saying that like an average to like above average NFL like pass rusher is between like 10 to like 12, 13% pressure rate. A great ones like the TJ Watts and Myles Garrett, those are like 18 to 20 plus percent pressure rates. To have a 5% pressure rate, that's like third string like rusher type like stuff. So like it just goes to the point of like if they beat us like a drum on the line this week, we got some big problems.
all right, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But my whole point, is it doesn't matter on paper ultimately. What it
But that was
comes,
my point. Like the names on paper is one thing; it's about what you do on the field.
it comes down to team football. And
Yeah.
can you capitalize on the turnovers? Can you force those turnovers and creating that pressure, getting that quarterback unstable, making sure that running game isn't up and running? And I think that ultimately is what's most important. We've seen this football team beat the undefeated Steelers, beat the Eagles when they were going down. We've seen them beat Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So I don't want to hear about this on paper, this and that. I don't really care about that. Team football, win the damn game, kick your frickin' field goals, and make them. My
Yeah.
goodness, dude. That was atrocious, man. I got me
Yeah.
so fired up. I was pissed off. I I told you this. Said this something to them last week, but I'll tell you after we start recording. But Cash made me laugh, dude. Next question we have is: other than Daniels, who must have a big game to get the dub?
Mm, I'll say it's a combination. I'll say it is both tackles, whether it's hopefully it's going to be Coleman. I'll say Coleman,
Okay.
and I guess it'll be Wiley or Lucas, whoever they want to put on the right. I'll say Wiley for now because he'll probably be the starter. So I'll say Coleman slash Wiley, combine them into one person. They have to have a big game because again, everyone talks about this front four and that pass rush, and you can even throw Sam Cosmi in there because he's going to be the one blocking Dexter Lawrence. But I'll just say the edges because I feel like if the edges can hold up, and I feel like the interior is pretty solid as a whole, I think that we'll give time for Jaden to be in the pocket, get his passing down, and if we can move the ball through the air, because we already know as we've seen, we can move the ball on the ground. That's not the problem, I don't think, especially with Jaden Daniels like being inserted into the run game a little bit, his scramble ability. My biggest concern is if we can get the passing game going, that's only going to open up the running lanes even more for the running backs or Jaden Daniels. So I want to see the edges or the tackles be able to block on the edges, give Jaden some time, and so they can move the ball in the air.
That's a really good one. Personally, I don't think this is going to be based off stats. I think it's Bobby Wagner in the sense of putting guys in position, being able to sniff out these plays, using that mental ability to be able to stop things. That's going to be the most important, especially on defense. And then offensively, I would say Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. Solidifying that ground game. If you're able to bite up 4+ yardage per carry, then you're sniffing really, really good and getting a dub for this team. But I don't want to, stick my nose out too far in that regard. Now, the next question that we have is from Deluxe. After further review of Game 1, are the current issues on both sides of the ball uncommon for a team with a lot of new pieces early in a season, especially with the high turnover and rookie quarterback?
I would say I would think it's more common on the offensive side of the ball just because again, new offense, new quarterback, new pieces throughout the offense. It's going to take some time to get the reps in, get the gel together, especially with the offensive line. Guys got to get those reps in, gel together, be one unit. The timing's got to be on point with the receivers and whatnot. So And then obviously with practice and like the joint practices and everything, that's not real like NFL game speed. So it is like maybe 80, 85%, but it ratchets up and down once you actually get onto the field in the regular season. So I do think that the offense, yeah, that's like more of a common thing because teams are trying to like get their feet under themselves, kind of find their identities and become that maybe by like week 3 to 4, that's when you kind of know, okay, this is what we are on offense, this is what we like to do. But defensive wise, I thought they would be a little bit more solid. I thought they'd be a little bit more tight knit as a group, just because it's defensive coach, head coach, a lot of smart minds and defensive on the defensive staff. The money was basically spent on the defensive side of the ball, as far as like Frankie Louvu, Dorrance Armstrong, Bobby Wagner's, guys like that. And so, yeah, I would say the defense. I thought it would be a little bit more solid and a little bit more stingy, if you want to call it that. But it's week 1. Hopefully, like I said, they'll tighten it up and they'll be better in week 2.
After further review, I would say with the new pieces, it is common for offense, especially with the rookie quarterback, because the offensive line has to kind of learn what the quarterback is going to do in certain situations, right? Like Cornelius Lucas on that one sack that happens to Jaden Daniels, there's a wide open lane for Jaden to step up into. But instead of that, Jaden is actually running backwards around it, leading it right into Lucas's guy. So that's one of those things where, as a quarterback and as an offensive line, you're trying to understand each other and see like how a guy gets beat where. And it's hard to do that in preseason. It's because you don't get that many snaps. You're not going against the usual starters that can create that pressure. But I will not make that excuse for defense, especially the front four. You're a freaking shark, dude. When you have that fish in front of you, you better bite it or you're not going to have dinner tonight. And that's my whole, like, I'm still pissed off about it because that could have helped out a lot. And for how many, after watching all 22 today, after how many opportunities slipped through our fingers on multiple occasions, and it wasn't even just the front four, it was freaking everybody, dude.
A lot of those are drive enders where they don't even score all those points. So that's like the biggest like just like head shaker and head scratcher where it's like, damn.
Yeah, and then it's the whole screen game, 3rd and 19, and still giving up a first down. And we defensively, you got to get back to it, man. And I know that they're young. They're not young, but they're young in the season with each other. And obviously, it is somewhat expected with a young kind of defense to be able to do that as well. But my goodness, man, you got to get your head out of your ass and get down that quarterback because you're not going to have that many chances every single game. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Now the next question that we have, and I believe it's the last question that we have. This one is from Deluxe again. Because we're going to the game on Sunday, do you have any game day traditions or superstitions when attending a game?
No, not really. I like to always wear like a jersey of like
No shit, dude.
yeah.
So does
No,
30,000
I'm saying like
people.
I like to wear the jersey of like the player that I'm all in on for like that like season or like
I
you know what I'm
got you.
saying. But I don't know if I'm gonna get that this year. I might have to wait like a week or two. I like to wear a jersey. That's my ritual. Nah. But as far as like superstitions, rituals, stuff like that, like nah. I just like to go to the game, have a good time, hopefully catch a W.
Oh, actually, he missed one arch, and I'm sorry, but it's walking into the stadium with Corey Sanchez because whenever we
Yeah,
do that, we get a
true.
dub.
Yeah, no. That is right. We're 2 for 2 right now. Hopefully, we 3 for 3 on. I don't even know if Corey's going actually, but
He is.
yeah. Oh, he is. All right, yeah. So hopefully, we going 3 for 3 because you are right. That is the one tradition. We walk in with Corey. We get one of these, Jameis Winston.
I did that on Sunday night, and I apologize because I did the whole bit. I was like that was weird. That was weird. But you weren't on a couple of weeks ago when I had Corey on. He actually brought it up again. He was like, "We have
Yeah.
to walk in again. Make sure you tell Hall so we can get that W."
Hell yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'll give you the excuse because you weren't here for it. You kind of slipped your mind. You forgot about it a little bit.
Yeah, I did actually forget about that. I'm not gonna lie.
When I played, did I have any superstitions or anything like that? Not really. I obviously had like the horse collar jaunt that I had that I loved on my pads, but when I played, it was much more so of listening to music and just getting jacked up and getting sized up and ready to go. That sort of thing. Like when we played flag, I didn't have any superstitions or traditions or anything like that. Just
Yeah,
making
I
sure you're
mean,
there early enough to warm up.
right. Yeah, when I played like high school and like rec ball, whatever you want to call it, like little league, whatever. I did have like, especially when I got to like high school, my tradition was I would have to eat like 2 to 3 like oranges, like you know what I'm saying, like cut them up and then give you like the oranges cut up or whatever. Eat like 2 3 of those before I get in the game. I don't know why. It's just something I did.
Well, and the thing about Hall is when he was a kid, dude. Apparently, he was like the best freaking guy on the team, just running by everybody. So we know that that was just orange juice at this
I
point.
mean, yeah, I
All right,
was a bowler back in the day. I can't even like
you, you
size it.
you still are though. When we were playing, people were doubting you. I was trying to tell them, just throw my boy the ball,
I know.
and
I
George
know.
just did not want to throw you the football. And it wasn't just because of like athleticism. There was other crap going on
Yeah,
too.
no, I was gonna say there was like a whole like sub story and plot behind that, but
Yeah,
we ain't getting into that today.
yeah, but that's why we kicked that man the curb. You don't do that to my boy. All right, and we still beat him.
I was out there running Terry, like running cardio like Terry
You
whenever he was
were.
playing quarterback.
Dude, the funniest thing though is watching you trying to catch a football because like at that time when we were playing, Hall was wearing shorts that didn't have strings. And so you'd see him holding one hand up, holding his shorts up while smiling because whenever Hall had the ball in his hands or the ball was coming to him, he had a huge freaking smile on his
You know, it's
face.
funny. People are trying to get on Jaden Daniels because he's like smiling, running the ball, and like cheesing and whatnot. I'm like, dog, it's a great feeling when you just like running, you just like, oh yeah, like you just know you're about to like either like break someone's ankles, you're about to score a touchdown. You can't help but cheese. Even like, I just love playing football. So when I know the ball's coming my way, I'm just like, it's probably a dead giveaway because I'd be like,
Dude,
but
so I was on a job site this week down in Selbyville, and this older guy, he was like, "Oh, you guys, you guys think you're going to be able to win this week?" And I was like, I'm freaking hope so, man." But he was like, "That quarterback, he's pretty good." I was like, "Yeah, he's pretty good," and it completely went the opposite direction from that point on. He was like, he was like, "Yeah, he needs to put in that damn mouthpiece. So disrespectful, and spinning out all the time." I was like, all right, yeah, I mean, I guess. And he was like, smiling, always smiling on the sidelines, like, come on, man, respect. I was like, what is happening right now?
what he's supposed to be walking around like
I
pissed and
don't,
like
I
banging his
don't
head on the
know.
bench like football.
Like
Brr.
literally, like at that point, I'm still pissed off about the defense and everything. I'm like, this guy's yelling at me about Jaden Daniels smiling, not having his mouthpiece in. Like that is the last thing from my mind at this point, my
Dog, you
dude.
know why that man's smiling? He's smiling because he's like, dog, I'm the best athlete on this field, and I'm about to do something crazy, and he's
Well,
just like, ha, ha,
yeah,
ha.
because you got to imagine it from a rookie perspective. Like, yeah, you balled out in college, but like, how the NFL is a different animal. You don't know how you're going to stack up. Like, because a lot of
Exactly.
times guys try to do those end arounds, the stops, come back around, and like they always get
Caleb
caught up.
Williams tried to do it, and he got caught.
Yeah, and like you get caught up, and people are like, "See, this is the NFL, son. You can't be doing that out here." But Jane Daniels out there was literally just skating on dudes, and he knew
Exactly.
they were petrified of him. So he's sitting there smiling, like, "All right, it's actually I can do this." And like,
Exactly. The
I
man's
I
living out
know,
his childhood dream. Of course, he's gonna be smiling. What do you
right?
What do you want him to do?
Dude, if I was on that field doing this, everybody would be fucking smiling, dude.
Right.
Everybody. I just thought it was funny. Driving home, I was like, what the hell what's that about? All right,
Nah, it's
everybody.
funny because I heard someone else like obviously the 106 gets the most ridiculous callers ever. Some dude called into and was like, I don't like how he's smiling on the sidelines and he's smiling when he scored a touchdown. I was like, what? It's like, no, what are we doing? What are we doing
You're
here? What are we
supposed to do
doing?
a Caleb Williams. You're supposed to start crying after he
That's what I'm
scores.
saying. I'm like, what is he supposed to just look like resting B face the whole time? Just yeah, scored. Like monotone, like hooray, I scored.
Like Terry when he caught that pass in the fourth quarter and we're down by 2 scores, he just catches it, gives the ball back to ref and jogs back. He's like, "What is he?
Right.
What he's gonna celebrate that? Like what? Like
Right.
that's how you want him to deal with every single thing? He's a rookie in the NFL. He just scored. Let the kid have fun, man.
It's the no fun league, I guess, in
Dude,
his eyes.
it's crazy, man. People just don't like showboating, and that's why they don't
Yeah,
like Colorado. I listened to this whole thing about Shane Gillis today.
I know, I know, I know.
It was actually pretty freaking funny. All right, everybody. That's gonna wrap us up for this episode. We're gonna have fun. We got our company crab feast on Friday, so it's not
Yo,
really a work day. We're just going out, gonna be having drinks, eating all you can eat crabs with everyone in the company. It's a great celebration party. And then on Sunday, the UK boys are here for the weekend. We're going to see them on Sunday. They asked if I want to go to the Nats game on Saturday, but my son has a soccer game that I'm not going to miss. So I was like, I'll see you boys on Sunday, so we got to make it worth it. and then you and I will be going together. So if anybody has a parking pass they're willing to sell to us, please hit me up in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter and DMs. We'd love to be able to do it. I don't want to spend $100 on a parking pass. We'll figure out. Maybe we'll start a GoFundMe for that. I don't know. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday night after the game. I'm not sure how great of condition I will be in. I cannot guarantee anything. I'm not even sure Hall will show up. He might take a nap. All I'm saying is just
don't be a nap.
Don't be judgmental. Don't be judgmental. All right, just understand it's gonna be a wild day. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday evening. Good luck this weekend, everybody. Have a good, safe work week. Washington. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.